Welcome back, and thanks for clicking the video. Welcome back to Harriet's Above Ground Railroad. My name is Anthony Ross, and I am the president and CEO of the Harriet Tubman Ross Foundation. The purpose of this channel is to take the listener on a journey through the true history of slavery from beginning to present, and to also increase your knowledge and understanding of systemic racism. I will include a link below that you can click that will take you to the Harriet Tubman Ross Foundation. I would encourage you to do so. And then also, like we do with every video in this series, I'm going to start it off by asking the following three questions. So the first question is, why was this group targeted to be enslaved worldwide, and why were they made to continue to suffer? Why did the rest of the world accept this behavior? Governments, rulers, and religions. And why don't people realize the present day effects on these people? So with that, sit back and we'll jump right into the video. 1799, Boston. First minstrel performance is given by Gottlieb Grabner, a young German who had studied songs sung by blacks in Charleston. Grabner later forms the Boston Philharmonic Society. 1800, Richmond. Betrayal of Gabriel Prosser's plan to lead thousands of slaves in an attack on Richmond. Prosser and 15 of his followers are later hanged. 1800, Washington, D.C. By a vote of 85-1, Congress rejects petitions by free blacks of Philadelphia to gradually end slavery in the United States. 1803, South Carolina. The legislature, which had been trying to limit importation of slaves, reopened slave trade with Latin America and the West Indies. 1803, New York City. Blacks of New York burned parts of the city and destroyed several homes. 1804, Ohio. The legislature enacts the first of the Black Laws, restricting the rights and movements of blacks. Other Western states soon follow suit. Illinois, Indiana, and Oregon later have anti-immigration clauses in their state constitutions. 1804, New Jersey. New Jersey passes an emancipation law. All states north of the Mason-Dixon line now have laws forbidding slavery or providing for its gradual elimination. However, there are to be some slaves in New Jersey right up to the Civil War. 1807, New Jersey. The state alters its 1776 Constitution by limiting the vote to free white males. 1807, Washington, D.C. Congress bars the importation of any new slaves into the territory of the United States effective January 1st, 1808. The law is widely ignored. 1808, United States. Ban on the importation of slaves is scheduled to take effect. There are 1 million slaves in the country. 1810, Louisiana. Courts declare in Adele versus Beauregard that a black is free unless it is otherwise proven. 1811, Westport, Connecticut. Paul Cuffey, 1759 born and died in 1818, son of black and Indian parents and later a wealthy shipbuilder, sails with the small groups of blacks to Sierra Leone to underscore his advocacy of a black return to Africa. 1811, Delaware. The state forbids the immigration of free blacks and declares that any native-born free black who has been out of Delaware for more than 6 months will be deemed a non-resident. 1811, Louisiana. U.S. troops suppress a slave uprising in two parishes, some 35 miles from New Orleans. The revolt is led by Charles Deslin. Some 100 slaves are killed or executed. 1812, Louisiana. The mission of Louisiana to the Union as a slave state. State law enables free men to serve in the state militia. 1813, Lake Erie. Out of Admiral Perry's victorious force in a naval battle with the British, 10 to 25% are blacks. Many are cited for bravery. 1814, the United States. Blacks participate in victories at Plattsburgh and on Lake Champlain. Andrew Jackson praises blacks for bravery in battle. 1815, New Orleans. 600 blacks, many led by black officers, fight with Andrew Jackson in successful defense of New Orleans. 1815, Fort Blount, Florida. Blacks and Creek Indians capture the fort from Seminoles and use it as a haven for escaped slaves and base for attacks on slave owners. But an American Army detachment eventually recaptures the fort. 1816, Louisiana. State law prohibits slaves from testifying against whites and free blacks, except in cases involving slave uprisings. 1816, Philadelphia. Organization of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. 1816, Washington, D.C. Organization of the American Colonization Society, which seeks to transport free blacks to Africa. Protest meetings are subsequently held by many such blacks in opposition to the society's efforts to exile us from the land of our nativity. 1816, Virginia. Failure of slave rebellion led by George Boxley, a white man. 1816, Baltimore. Founding of Bethel Charity School for Negroes by Daniel Coker, a black. 1816, New Orleans. James P. Beckwourth, who was to become one of the great explorers of the 19th century, signs on as a scout for General Henry Oxley Rocky Mountain Expedition. 1817, the United States. Mississippi enters the Union as a slave state. New York passes a gradual abolition act. 1818, Connecticut. Blacks are disenfranchised. 1818, Philadelphia. Free blacks form the Pennsylvania Augustine Society for the education of people of color. Schools for Black receives public aid. 1819, Washington, D.C. James Madison, who wishes slavery to cease but believes in separation, argues that slavery should end gradually and that slaves be allotted land in the West because the barriers to incorporation of the people are inseparable. 1819, Alabama. Alabama enters the Union as a slave state, although its constitution provides the legislature with the power to abolish slavery and compensate slave owners. Other measures include jury trials for slaves figuring in crimes above petty larceny and penalties for malicious killing of slaves. 1820, Washington, D.C. The Missouri Compromise provides for Missouri's entry into the Union as a slave state and Maine's entry as a free state. There are thus 12 slave and 12 free states in the United States. All territory north of 3630 is declared free. All all territory south of that line open to slavery. The Army is forbidden from accepting blacks and mulattoes. So with that, this brings us to the end of today's video. And I want to end this video by asking the same questions that I asked at the beginning. The first question is, why was this group targeted to be enslaved worldwide, and why were they made to continue to suffer? Why did the rest of the world accept this behavior? Governments, rulers, and religions. And lastly, why don't people realize the present day effect on these people? So I would encourage you all to click the link below, which will take you to the Harriet Tubman Ross Foundation. And I would encourage you all to also get involved and help Harriet achieve her dream.